Alex Rogers, you are the mind and the vision behind ICBC. Thank you so much for being with CannaReporter today for this interview. Um, my first question to you would be, you are original from the US, but you are radicated in Europe now. What was the initial vision behind ICBC, and did you expect that it grow so much as it did?
Uh, yeah, so good question. Thanks for having me, Laura. I really appreciate it. You do great work, and
Thank you.
you're a force in the cannabis industry, and we definitely appreciate you and all that you do. Yeah,
Thanks.
my vision was education. I started out. Well, I had a big medical cannabis clinic in Oregon, and the laws were when I started the clinic, there was no regulated supply system for medical specifically, which is odd that there wasn't one for medical. And then eventually dispensaries came for medical, and then eventually legalization happened in Oregon. And so as I had my big clinic, I started seeing folks wanting to, I was helping my community out in a lot of ways. And I was realizing, oh, this is becoming a business and we can educate people about the business of cannabis. So in 2014, I did the January in Ashland, Oregon. I did the first Oregon Medical Marijuana Cannabis Conference,
Mm-hmm.
and it was very successful. And so pretty much immediately after that was successful, I decided to go to other places in the state like Eugene, and it was the biggest in the state and the baddest. It was really awesome. But immediately I thought, you know what, I want to take this back to I want to go to Europe, and I want to create this international cannabis business, education, commerce, connections, networking, and so on. So we started ICBC in I think it was 2014, and then we started doing it in San Francisco, Portland, Hawaii, and then it was 2017 we came to Vancouver, and so that was our first outside the U.S. show. And then it was 217. Oh, now I'm getting it. I think it was 216 Vancouver, and then 217 was Berlin, right?
Yeah.
And so my goal was, you see, I had actually been incarcerated in Germany for half a year, about 20 years ago,
Oh,
and
why?
I I for cannabis,
Okay.
and so that was a huge impetus, or you know poetical reasoning for me to come back to Germany and say, you know what, I'm not going to come break the law now. I'm going to come change the law. So I'm not a criminal, right? I want to smoke cannabis. I'm a cannabis user, right? I don't sell
Mm-hmm.
cannabis anymore for a long, long time. But that's why I did go to prison, and those were
Because
the
you
laws.
sold cannabis?
Yeah. So I decided, you know what? I'm gonna go back one day and make this legal and be an anständiger Mensch, as they say, like an upstanding citizen for Germany, because I do respect the laws. You have to respect laws, but if you don't like the law, it's incumbent upon the people to change the law. And so that's what I helped do by creating an ecosystem, an ecosystem within the cannabis business industry for Europe. And so
Mm-hmm.
that was so my main goal to start the ICBC was I saw a niche, a really cool niche that I wanted to be part of. I predicted that Germany would be the epicenter of cannabis almost 10 years ago, probably over 10 years ago, actually, even before we did our first show there. And then it did expand and it got bigger, and it didn't surprise me. It was always kind of what I thought
Mm-hmm.
would happen. For me, I live life with rose-colored glasses. So for me, it could have even been bigger, quicker. I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a businessman, whatever. You got to think big, but very happy with what's happened, what I've helped create in Germany with this ecosystem, and what the ICBC is becoming now in not only in Germany but Europe and the Eastern Hemisphere.
So, in your perspective, what is the secret for the success of ICBC and what makes it different from other conferences?
Well, that's a good, I mean, secret is I work my ass off, but that's that's not, a lot of us work our asses off, right? So
Yeah.
that's not the total secret. I think the secret for me, I know it's funny you asked that because I was thinking about that. I think the fact that I'm a legacy player, that I'm over 32 years in this game, that Jack Hare was my mentor, that I did go to prison for cannabis, but yet but yet I come from a nice upper middle class family, so I do have the tools to execute ideas and make shit happen. But I think the fact that I'm a legacy player and that I stay true to I always stay true to cannabis culture, and I'm always pushing public, you know, progressive public policy for cannabis. I believe in the plant. I am a servant of Jah, and I am just doing Jah's work. So I think because I'm in line with the vision of the plant itself, the plant's consciousness, if you will,
Mhm.
uh, I think that gives me an advantage.
Yeah. How do you see the joining of these two forces? There are people in the cannabis industry that are passionate about the plant, that they came
Yeah,
like you from being a user, but also there are so many business people that are in the industry that are only
yeah,
focused on the money or on the revenue and never used cannabis. But they
yeah,
gather at some point, and at ICBC
yeah,
they
yeah.
gather. They
So
are together.
yeah, so I've never understood, I kind of have this thing where envy is okay, but jealousy is not. Because envy just means you want something somebody else has, and there's nothing wrong with that. It can inspire you, right?
Yeah.
But jealousy infers that you want to take what that person has, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you don't want them to have it, right? So this is not a good way to live. The Tao, Taoist, you see the good, the bad, and everything. And so I never understood I guess I did understand why legacy players would complain about newbies coming in, making a bunch of money, not caring about the plant. However, I don't, I'm a libertarian, I'm an anarchist libertarian. If there's an opportunity and you work hard and you see it and you go for it, I'm not going to be like, oh, well, they've only been in the game for 5 years and they just made $5 million or whatever. I'm not hating, that's a disease to be hating on folks.
Yeah.
Now, if you don't like the dynamics of what's going on, and if one doesn't like the dynamics of what's going on in the industry, again, it's incumbent upon them to change that. I think people don't understand how much agency they actually have, as we say, how much power they have as humans to make change, to connect, to organize. And if you don't like something, then don't bitch about it. Just fucking do something to make change. So I have zero problem with anybody coming in and finding opportunity in this world, whatever it is, right? And if I see someone coming in that's very unconscious and just like an asshole, then that's
Mm-hmm.
different. Then you're just an asshole, right? And then you can be hated on because you're a dick, right? But
Yeah.
you're not a dick because you've made money with cannabis, because you've decided to build a factory but really you've been in horticulture for tomatoes your whole life or whatever. No, I actually encourage that, and I think it's great for the most part. It's great for the industry. And the one other thing that does give me the advantage is I've lived in America for so long. I've lived in Europe for so long. I understand Europe. I understand European culture very well. Uh, Not just for an American, but for a European, I understand all these different cultures. So I think that because I'm such a Europhile and I'm so Euro savvy and I do speak other languages and da 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 da, but yet I understand the American market and what happened there, I shouldn't discount what an advantage that is also for us.
Mm-hmm. But for
Yeah.
sure, you found on your way many challenges. What were the biggest challenges?
Oh my God. How about how expensive Berlin is to do an event? There's a challenge right there. Holy Jesus. Expanding is a challenge, right? So we could have stayed smaller and I could have made a bunch more money, but I just thought well, let's keep expanding and let's take it. So when we expanded to the Estrell, it was a big change for us from our previous venue. And I think that anytime a business expands, it's a lot of risk. You got to take a lot of balls, a lot of resources. You just gotta, but I just followed my heart, my instincts. And yeah, it was, the only way this happened and the ICB is so successful because I have suffered and sacrificed. There's no question about that. But I do believe any entrepreneur with any successful business wouldn't say anything differently.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the trends. How do you see the evolution of cannabis regulations in Europe, and what do you expect for the next 5 years?
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Well, again, it's easy to predict. It's easier to predict things when you have seen the past. It's also easier to predict things when you feel you have actual agency to change, to make change. So it's clear to me that taking cannabis off the narcotics list is a very, very important thing for
mhm.
all European states to do, or to at least consider. It is a crazy thing that cannabis is considered a hard drug in terms of its scheduling
Yeah.
in most of these countries. And I do believe that that is the key to um, freeing up cannabis. That's the baseline. That takes the wind out of Babylon's sails, right? The institutions can't do as much if it's not a narcotic. So I think that's extremely crucial. You see that EU won't allow for adult use regulations. The two closest examples we have to that is de facto medical in Germany, with cannabis being off, de facto legalization under medical auspices in Germany, with cannabis being off the narcotics list. And now we have the start of these pilot projects in Germany or Switzerland or Holland, right? So, however, I think the future is medical cannabis for the next, you said 5 years, right? We have to be very, I love the German medical cannabis model. I love this de facto legalization model that's not over regulated. I've seen this happen in the States, and it's happening now in Germany. And I believe these are the golden years. I don't think that's going to last forever. It will change. But for right now, that's our best model. And that, along with decrim, right? You have to have, every state has to decriminalize cannabis to some degree. It cannot be a crime anymore to smoke a joint, to grow a plant.
Mm.
So I do believe, and that's a classic harm prevention, historically, harm prevention strategy for Europe. So I think legalization will happen with plants, but I do think that the medical cannabis, with cannabis coming off the narcotics list, is the number one thing that folks can do right now. I think that decrim is also the number one thing. Those two, what Germany did, not necessarily the social clubs or the pilot projects right now. Because here's the deal: when the European Union does agree to cannabis being legalized for and regulated and sold for adult use, it might not be as great as everybody thinks it's going to be.
Why is that?
Well, if we look at America, I used to tell Europeans the irony is that medical cannabis in America is not as regulated, and regulated adult use is more regulated than medical. And I didn't,
Yeah.
of all the things I predicted in Europe would happen, which are a lot, and we're early on, I did not predict that it would quite be so wild, wild west in Germany with the medical cannabis program. We don't know how long that's going to last, specifically. However, I did not predict that, right? I would not predict the social clubs being nationally regulated. I thought that would happen state by state or city by
Mm-hmm.
city. Berlin had talked about it, Hamburg, and the decrim thing was just absolutely amazing. So what happened in America is when recreational cannabis came, adult use, then it got more regulated, and that mom and pop, it got more, the businesses consolidated quicker. That whole mom and pop aspect of it, with, kind of, everybody has a chance to succeed in this industry, went away. And then what happened is it became uber taxed and then pushed back on the black market.
Mm-hmm.
So these are things we have to be super cognizant of and understand what is the best system, because we all want to say, I'm a disciple of Jack Hare, right? So I personally think cannabis is like tomatoes. So that's my personal belief on cannabis. I use cannabis every day. It's an extremely benign, safe, non-toxic substance, right? And
For
and
you.
by making by well, in no, in general, not that everybody, you know,
Yeah, it's not
there's an
everybody
application.
that can smoke every day and be
Not
okay.
smoke. No, no,
Yeah.
not everybody. We know people who, when they smoke, they have THC, they don't like it, right?
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean it's toxic, right? It doesn't
Yeah.
mean it's unsafe, right? It just means they
Mm,
don't like it. It's not their thing, right?
mm, mm.
So in terms of safety, there's no, it's a magical thing. It's not a physically addictive drug. It's not there's no overdose you can take to die.
No.
You can die from food, you can die from aspirin, you can die from all these other
Yeah.
lightweight things. So my personal belief is that cannabis is a plant from our creator, the great spirit, who, and it's
Mm-hmm.
now that doesn't mean it can't be abused, or it can't even be
Now,
somewhat.
some people really can react badly to cannabis. They can have mental breakdowns, psychosis. This is true. It's in a very few percentage of people, but
Yeah,
it's true that for some people, it's not the substance that they should use. This is
yeah,
for sure.
well,
But
yeah, well,
most
people
of the
get fat
people
and
won't
die.
have.
People get fat and die from eating too much chocolate and get diabetes.
It's
So
true, yeah.
uh
And they
so
have the
it's
same with alcohol and other substances. So it's
it all
not
comes down to
exactly
person.
the cannabis the trigger, but some people they actually can really react in a bad way.
Yeah, there's no
Yeah,
question to that. It just doesn't qualify or disqualify my point that it is a safe, benign substance, and the fact that if it's illegal, then Jack used to say the most dangerous, or Dennis Perron used to say the most dangerous thing about cannabis is that it's illegal.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's true.
And so I'm of that ilk. That's my opinion. However, when it comes to uh, my opinion doesn't matter. When it comes to implementation and the actualization of what is going on the ground in countries and how cannabis can be freed up, I personally think decrim plus a medical law that takes it off the narcotics list is is the best thing that we have in Europe, and it could be the best thing we ever have in Europe when we see that when adult use is finally allowed by the EU, then I believe it's going to become uber uber regulated. So in 2017, what I said when I did the first Berlin ICBC, and the first words that I said was, thanks for being here, and that there's two important things, and here's what our goal is: we need to end all criminal penalties towards cannabis, and we need to have allow for home grow, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
it's a human right to be able to grow cannabis at your house
Yeah.
or your domicile, right? It's a human right to be able to use cannabis without the fear of incarceration.
Yeah.
It's the crime is the tax. So cannabis can become completely legal. There's, the crime is if tomatoes, if you raise tomatoes and you sell tomatoes and you don't pay tax, that's the crime, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So there already is a crime set up to protect us from people selling too much of this or that without a proper license, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
called evading your taxes.
Yeah.
So we don't have to create all these new laws when there's certain laws already in place that basically regulate it. I think in Europe the problem is, and America, and any society, is that it becomes technocratic. And when a society becomes technocratic, then it's basically an insult to the working class people. It's
Mm-hmm.
a it's a basically, and it's inferring that certain people know better than other people.
Yeah.
And this is a slippery slope in terms of governance, that when we become technocratic and we think, oh, well, we need to protect society, they can't protect. Who's they? You know,
Yeah.
and I hear this discourse in Europe quite a bit from the educated class. Oh, well, they can't. Well, we need to. We control. It's a control society, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm of a different opinion. I believe that people can control. I think power should be divested from the bottom up
Yeah.
and not from the top down. I don't believe in globalization. I don't believe in centralization. I believe in a mosaic of cultures
Yeah.
all around the world and indigenous people staying intact. And indigenous people, that includes Europe also. So,
Yeah.
because I'm an American, I didn't know Europe was tribal until I moved to Europe. I just thought all you white people were like Americans, and boy, was I wrong. You know,
Yeah.
it's like you go to one country and the one valley doesn't like the other valley, and it's like it's super interesting. It's tribal, you know, where America is subcultural. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
digressing a little bit, but the point is as we go into adult use, and if that starts to happen, when and if that starts to happen, it could be technocrats taking control of it. And then there's other things like big business and everything like that. So right now, I think we're in a really good spot. Decrim, medical, cannabis off the narcotics list. It's a
Mm-hmm.
beautiful thing, and we're lucky we have it in Germany. And now we have it in Slovenia as of yesterday, my dear Laura. So we just passed
I read your
the
email
law in
yesterday,
Slovenia.
yes. So it was one of my questions. Before we go to Slovenia, because you are talking about decriminalization, let me discuss a little bit with you about the challenges of decriminalization. So in Portugal, we have decriminalized all drugs in 2000. This year marks 25 years of decriminalization. And
Yeah.
still today, we are still arresting people for growing 2 or 3 plants of cannabis at home. So I don't think this is the best solution, in my opinion, from what I have seen, at least here in Portugal, because there's still a big stigma around cannabis. Um, and it didn't work because what decriminalization did around here was that you can use any substance and you don't go to jail for using any drug. But the problem is that if you grow a plant at home, this will be a crime. So you can use,
Yeah.
but you cannot buy, you cannot sell, and you cannot grow. So where do you get your things from?
Yeah.
So it's
So
a paradox. There's no
yeah.
way out of this for people that
Well,
want to use the substances.
yeah. So I get it, and I agree with that. Portugal decrim is not the Germany decrim model is better for cannabis
Yeah,
because it
because
allows for
they allow
home
to
grow.
grow. Yeah, that's
And so
what's
that's what I
missing.
so that's what I actually said is I said that there's two things that are most important.
Mm,
Home grow is one of the two things that are most
exactly.
important. Every human right to grow cannabis, right?
Yeah.
The second thing is ending criminal penalties towards cannabis, right? So what we
Mm-hmm.
can't, but what we could also say, if we're saying what we're looking at right now on the ground, is a regulated supply system, and you have that with
Yeah.
medical, especially when it's off the narcotics list. So that combination, Laura, is what I'm talking about. A proper decrim with a proper medical law. Those
Yeah.
two together are what I think is the golden egg right
Yeah.
now for Europe. So yeah, I think decriminalization is in whatever form. It's good that Portugal has it, and you're not incarcerating uh, drug users. A lot of people think
Yeah.
I should make this qualification because a lot of people think decriminalization, like in Oregon, my state where I'm from, uh,
Mm,
they decriminalized and then they stopped it because there was drug use rampant. It became crazy, but that's not really what happened. That's a
mm.
false narrative. That's a spurious correlation. Again, there's already laws in effect. So this is a very American thing. Now we're talking about vagrancy, loitering, homelessness. Right?
Yeah.
Of course, that we have this in Europe now. The last 20 years, we've seen a big uptick.
Yeah.
But the crime isn't doing the drug. The crime is you can't do a drug outside on the street, in front of
Mm-hmm.
a school, in front of a restaurant, in front of no.
Mm.
The crime is now loitering or vagrancy, right? So
Mm.
these are what crimes that if you don't want, like in Vancouver on Hastings Avenue, now there's junkies everywhere, right?
Yeah,
Because they're not enforcing the drug laws, quote unquote. Well, no, that's not true. Well, that's also true, but what they're not enforcing, and what's the root of the problem, is they're sitting in front of a store. They're sitting on the street. They're put a tent
yeah,
up and now they're sleeping on the street. No, you can't sleep on the street. You just can't do that. Now, there's other
yeah.
solutions, homeless camps, and all this other stuff, but you can't just let your city be taken over by vagrants and
Yeah.
loitering under the auspices of all these poor people have nowhere where to go, because it's not a sustainable model for those
Hmm.
people or for that city itself. So that's just one qualification. How I promote decriminalization when people say, "Oh no, look at Oregon." Da, 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 da. I say, "No, you weren't enforcing the laws in the first place to let. Why are you letting people camp out in the park, in the kids park
Yeah.
next to the school? Why is there a home? Why are you letting that happen? Oh, the drug use. No, it's not the drug use.
Hmm.
It's you're letting them sit there. You have to move them. You have to enforce the rule of law. And
Mm.
so this is why, because in the end, why would it be a crime to use a substance for your body? And I don't care if it's heroin or cocaine or anything like
Yeah,
that. It cannot be a crime for a
yeah,
person. This is a new Western technocratic idea. Drugs were
yeah,
never illegal except for a few rare instances in history where it was a more of an economic thing rather, or a cultural thing, rather than this idea of we're going to punish you for something you're doing to yourself in your own home. That's not even a concept up until a human concept up until like 100 years ago.
yeah.
So we need to understand that. So anyway, I'm babbling a little bit here, but I'm
No,
convicted in
it
this
goes
stuff.
deeper than that, the concept also of addiction, that people use substances and they need to use something. It's deeper than just I want to use this, it's goes so much further than that.
That's right. And Gabor Mate from Canada. I don't know if you
I
know who
love
he is,
Gabor
but
Mate. Yeah.
yeah, he's pretty much one of our living luminaries on the subject of
Yeah.
addiction, why people are addicted, why they use substances, and how to get to the root of that issue,
Yeah. Yeah. So
which
it's
is
not just
childhood, trauma.
trauma.
And so,
Exactly.
you, generally childhood trauma, but yeah, any trauma can happen. So any PTSD you get at any time in life,
Yeah.
now you're going to be starting to self medicate is what we
Yeah.
would say, right? And you're going to try to anesthetize or numb yourself from certain pain, or go into a different world, and whatever it is.
Yeah.
So it's important to understand why people are using drugs, and some of it is, not all drug users are addicts though, right? So why do
Yeah.
those drugs, and why do, in fact, 95% of drug users are not addicts? That's
Yeah.
there's the dirty little secret. And so why do we use drugs? Well, it's to alter our consciousness, and altering your consciousness is a normal human thing that has helped us evolve the species over the last 100,000 years or
Yeah.
more, right? So yeah, it's interesting stuff for sure.
Yeah, yeah. I interviewed this researcher, neuroscientist from Brazil, who was researching exactly how the endocannabinoid system worked with autistic kids, and he discovered that they release a lot of more cortisol than any other of us. And the addiction, he was researching also that in crack users in Brazil, and they actually lack the mechanisms that we have through our endocannabinoid system to shut down the production of cortisol. So it's a very interesting interview where he explains that addicted people, they are addicted because of some other reasons. Either they are homeless, they struggle with emotional distress, they are always
Uh,
releasing so much stress and anxiety that they really their endocannabinoid system is not enough to shut down all their stress, and then they need any substance to help them regulate themselves. That's why they use
Interesting.
the substances. I can send you the link for this interview. It's very interesting. He
Well, that's why we
explains so
call
much better than me.
that's why they call cannabis. They say it's the gateway drug, but really it's the exit drug.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, he has a paper he published on cannabis being an exit drug for crack in Brazil and the success they had using it. So
Exactly.
um, the narrative is being deconstructed now and it's changing through time. So
Yep, it
it's
is.
interesting to see, and we are part of that. But this is a long way, right? Did you expect like these changes that would take so long to happen when you started?
Well, they happen quickly in terms of, look, I'm in it for 32 years. So I
Yeah.
started on the streets of San Francisco, or excuse me, streets of Santa Cruz and San Francisco in 1993.
Mm-hmm.
And then in 98, it took 5 years for a medical law to pass, right? And that was, oh, wait, sorry, 96. Why am I tripping? It's 96 and Oregon was 98, California.
Mm-hmm.
So it took a few years, and then it took then the medical phenomena happened in America, and then it took another 20 years before, for 15 years after the first medical for Colorado to legalize, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it took another, then that was kind of what was the big crack in the ceiling, I think, when Colorado legalized. That was absolutely huge. And then you look, and then the Germany medical marijuana program in 2017 really started to pop. And now in 2024, 7 years later. So I'm almost 54 years old. I've been in the game for 32 years. You know, lately, I think if I look at what happened in Germany or what's happening in Europe, lately I think it's happening relatively quickly. Now, if you go back however long you want to take it back
Yeah.
and then put the timeline in perspective, it's fucking taken a long time and it's been insane, right?
Yeah.
But right now we're in we're going through the wormhole right now, and there's a brighter light on the other side, and so I think things are being expedited quicker right now.
Yeah. Let's go back to Slovenia. You are based in Slovenia now, right?
Yep. Yep.
And yesterday you sent an email with big changes happening in Slovenia. I'm sure you are involved in the process, making some lobby. What's going
Well,
on now in Slovenia?
we don't lobby here. What we do is we really don't. That's the thing is when
Mm-hmm.
I got on ground in Slovenia, people were like, "Oh, you need to do this, this, and that. You need to meet with these people." And I thought,
Mm-hmm.
no, what Slovenia needs is a disruption strategy for the zeitgeist, for the whole of the society.
Mm-hmm.
And so I implemented disruption strategies in society because I knew Slovenia was a very cannabis friendly nation already, right?
It
And
was?
so
I didn't know that.
extremely cannabis
Wow.
friendly, extremely. Like Ljubljana, you can smoke weed in Ljubljana for the last
Mm-hmm.
50 years in this city. Nobody cares. Every now and then you'll have some civvy police give you shit, but they'll just take your weed. They won't a lot of times they won't even give you a ticket because it's basically
Mm-hmm.
decriminalized. So
Yeah.
nobody goes to jail in Ljubljana for smoking a joint, right? In fact, it's ubiquitous and you smell weed all over the city. People smoke it everywhere. It's
Okay.
extremely cannabis friendly. You can shut down restaurants. You can smoke weed inside a lot of times once you're the last one in there and da 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 da. You can smoke
Mm-hmm.
outside in almost every place in Ljubljana and on the coast also. It's extremely and people and one thing Slovenia has is they have the knowledge of the oil and they know that it has anti-tumoral
Yeah.
properties. And so per capita, there's no nation on earth that knows more about the cannabis oil than Slovenia, probably.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a few reasons for that. But so what we did was we disrupted. So I knew there's sleeper cells because still in any society in Europe, even though it's tolerated, you don't talk about it in mainstream society because it's still stigmatized that if you use cannabis, you're lazy, basically, that
Yeah.
you're a
You don't
loser,
you don't
you're a bum.
produce anything.
You don't produce. You're just sitting there complaining about life on the couch, eating Doritos, smoking weed, and watching Ren and
And watching
Stimpy.
Cheech and Chong.
Exactly. and so and so so my goal was to change to have people feel comfortable talking about cannabis. So we did all types of things. We did everything but lobby, actually. We did the opposite of it. Well, if we lobbied the people,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we did events, we did news, press conferences, big events, talked with the talked into parliament, had referendums,
Mm-hmm.
created mandates, put media out there where we needed it and wanted it and thought it was pertinent and applicable. You know,
Mm-hmm.
we educated the people, right? We educated them. We taught them that not only is this okay, which most of them already thought, but it's possible, right?
Yeah.
And so by letting society understand through these institutional disruption measures that it's all possible, we changed the zeitgeist and everything fell into place and happened.
Yeah. And do you think Slovenia could position itself to be a big potency in the cannabis field in Europe? What are the
One,
countries that you see advancing more in the next few years?
well, first I'll talk about Slovenia, and then I'll tell you what other countries I think
Yeah.
are coming on. But Slovenia is
We have three over a little bit over 3 minutes to finish this
yeah, so
meeting.
Slovenia will never be the biggest producer, but they're very good at research. They're a very innovative country. But at the
Mm-hmm.
same time, it's a sweet little niche market, and cannabis is coming off the narcotics list for the prescription for this law. So it's very similar to Germany's law. So we're the
Nice.
second. Slovenia is the second to do it in Europe, and yes, it should be it's a little powerhouse. It's like a little Balkan Switzerland. So
Mm-hmm.
everybody can get ready for Slovenia to do big things. Czech Republic, it has to be coming on. It has the great new home grow law, and it's only a matter of time. Czech Republic, Poland coming on.
Yeah.
Poland is coming on. I guess those are my three. France. Let's not discount France. I think France is finally doing something, and
Mm-hmm.
we'll see what happens with France. Otherwise, what else? You have your, Great Britain is doing what it's doing also, and
Mm-hmm.
it has its, stronger medical thing. But my country, I like the East. I like what's going on in Eastern Europe right now.
Yeah.
I think Poland, Czech Republic, and Slovenia are going to set examples, and Slovenia
Yeah.
already has as of yesterday.
So to finish, Alex, and this was a very nice talk. We could keep on talking for hours. What piece of advice could you give to entrepreneurs, to business in the cannabis industry here in Europe?
Yeah, just same thing I give to all entrepreneurs. You have to be resilient. You have to believe in a vision and go forward with it. And when it's a shitty day or a shitty week or a shitty month, just unless it's a total shitty idea, you might have to change. But otherwise, just push through. And I don't think everyone has to try to be the Walmart
Mm-hmm.
of weed. Know what you're good at, know what you're passionate at, and work your ass off to make it happen.
Do you see Europe making a common regulation for all countries anytime soon?
Nope,
No? Why
not
is
even.
that?
It's just not going to happen because it's just not going to happen for a while.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I'd say at least 5 years before the EU would step in and make any common regulations for cannabis. Maybe they will for hemp, right? But
Mm-hmm.
not for or not for cannabis, and
Yeah.
for sure not for rec. And maybe they might never do it. I mean, I like that each state can decide for themselves of what
Mm-hmm.
policy they want.
Yeah.
I don't think we need a uniform EU policy. Actually, that's kind of the one of the narratives of this conversation is everyone thinks you need to lobby the EU for uniform, maybe on hemp, right? But on
Yeah.
cannabis, I
Not
would
on
let
cannabis.
each state decide for themselves how they want to create their cannabis policy.
Okay. Hey, Alex, it was great talking to you. Thank you so much. And I
You
hope
too.
to see you again soon.
Okay, we will for sure.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank
take
you.
care.
Bye
All right,
bye.
ciao, ciao.